Hey, what's up? This is Mafic Man. I'd like to talk about some plate boundaries today, but before I do so, shall we review information from the previous lecture? I think that'd be a good idea. Pangea broke up, they found out, due to convection in the asthenosphere. And the plates are still moving today at a very slow rate, by the way, due to convection in the asthenosphere. A review of the asthenosphere is the upper part of the mantle, and the heated material gets really, really, really hot, so it becomes less dense, and it rises. And as it hits the bottom part of the lithosphere layer, it splits in opposite directions. And that splitting is enough force to kind of crack the plates above it. And that plate sort of floats on this then as the convection current continues and it moves this way, and eventually it's going to get so far away from the heat source that it's going to become cold enough and it sinks, and then it warms up, and then it rises, and the whole thing happens all over again. That's called a convection cell. And the plate sort of moves on that convection cell. Well, where one plate is moving in this picture to the left, there's another plate moving to its right, and they hit head on. Or maybe you have in this area two plates moving apart from one another. So these are all interactions that we have to investigate. And there are three types of plate boundaries. And the first one that I like to talk about would be the convergent plate boundary. A divergent plate boundary is when two plates move apart from one another. A transform plate boundary is when two plates sort of slide past one another. But I'd like to start with, like I said, the convergent plate boundary, where two plates collide. So where two plates collide, a couple things you want to know. First off is it's the most dense plate that gets pushed into the mantle. That is called subduction. Anytime you hear the word subduction, that means a plate that is more dense is being pushed into the mantle. And when it's being pushed into the mantle, it experiences higher temperatures, and this plate starts to melt, hence the word destructive. So convergent plate boundary is also known as a destructive plate boundary because the subducting plate gets hot enough where it melts, and that plate is being destroyed. It's being recycled or eaten, I should say. The plate that is not dense, or less dense, I should say, is not being subducted. And there are three areas around the globe that you'll find convergent plate boundaries. When two ocean plates collide, when an ocean plate collides with a continental plate, and when two continental plates collide. So let's take a look at all three of these specifically. When two ocean plates collide, you have this ocean plate is moving that way, and that ocean plate is moving this way. Now, you're not going to have the same exact densities of ocean plates. And remember what I told you in the previous lecture. Ocean plates are like Shaquille O'Neal. They're very, 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 very dense. But you have two ocean plates colliding, it's not going to be a Shaq versus Shaq. That's impossible to have these two plates with exact density. So one plate is going to be slightly more dense than the other plate. So in this situation, it's like Shaq slamming against Steph Curry. Steph Curry and Shaq are both very dense, but Shaq is a little bit more dense, and because of that, Shaq subducts. And as Shaq subducts, you have this subducting plate, oops, sorry, wrong button, starts to melt and it rises. And when it melts and it rises, that melting starts to rise and blister the overriding Steph Curry plate. So this plate right here is the Steph Curry plate. And as Shaq is being subducted, it's being pushed into the asthenosphere, temperatures are really high, it melts and it blisters the overriding plate, and it could form what's called a volcanic island arc. By the way, a trench is a telltale sign of subduction in an ocean because when the subducting plate hits the overriding plate, it forms this V-shaped depression on the bottom of the ocean floor, and that is a trench. So I know that the volcanic island arcs are, I know which plate's being subducted based off of the position of the volcanic island arcs. Like, here's the trench, and the subducting plate is moving this way, and the volcanic island arcs relative to the trench are to the left, which tells me this plate is being subducted, it's melting, and it's rising and forming the blisters. So the next type of convergent plate boundary is when an ocean plate collides with a continental plate. Again, now you have Shaq, which is very dense, but Belak, which is very light. Continental crust is very light. And when they collide, it's always going to be the ocean crust subducting. And like I mentioned, when an ocean plate subducts, it forms this V-shaped trench at the bottom of the ocean floor. So now, as Shack is being subducted or it's being pushed into the asthenosphere, it starts to melt. That melt rises and it forms blisters on the continent called the continental volcanic arc. These are volcanic in nature. And the third example of a convergent plate boundary is when two continental plates collide. When that happens, it's like Scalzo and Bielack, two very, very light pieces of crust colliding. And when they collide, nothing really happens in terms of subduction. They're so buoyant that most of the motion is upwards, not downwards. So because there's no subduction, no plate is being pushed into the asthenosphere, and therefore no plate is melting. So these mountain ranges are not volcanic in nature. They're just not, because no subduction is taking place and no melting is taking place. So the Himalayas are a really good example of when two continental plates collide, they form a non-volcanic mountain range. Okay, now moving on. Well, before I move on to the next one, so some real life examples of an O to O collision would be the volcanic island arcs or the Aleutian Islands in Japan and Alaska. So here's the trench right here. That's a telltale sign of subduction in the ocean. This ocean plate is moving that way, and it's subducting underneath this one, and this is the more dense plate, which is the Shack. And I know that because the islands are on this side of the trench. An example of an O to C collision would be the Andes or the Cascades. Here are the Andes in South America. The ocean plate's moving this way. Here's the trench, and they're melting and rising up, forming blisters on the overriding continental plate. And a real life example of two continental plates, like I mentioned, would be the Himalayas, where no subduction is taking place. So this mountain range is non-volcanic. Now, a divergent plate boundary could have an O diverging from an O or a C diverging from a C. When a continental plate diverges from a continental plate, the middle gets very thin. It's like taking a piece of gum, putting it in your hands, and spreading it apart. And before that breaks, potentially, that middle part gets very thin and thin and thin, and maybe water can fill in that area, like that's how the Red Sea formed. But as it gets very thin, maybe magma starts to rise up, and then all of a sudden it shoots out of the surface into this type of volcano. It's called a flank volcano. So Iceland is a really good example of a sea diverging from a sea. The northeast part of Africa is also an example of a sea diverging from a sea. When two ocean plates diverge, you have, again, the middle gets very thin, like a piece of gum, as you pull it apart, and that allows the hot magma to rise up, and it breaks through, and then it immediately hardens and forms new rock, like we talked about with seafloor spreading and how that was used to prove that the plates move. Real life example of an O diverging from an O would be the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. A real life example from a sea diverging from a sea would be the Great African Rift Valley, or also Iceland. And then finally, you have a transform plate boundary. There is no subduction here. One plate's moving that way, one plate's moving this way. They're sliding past one another. Since there is no subduction, there is no melting, and generally there's no volcanoes, but earthquakes are common here as well. Earthquakes can be formed at any of these plate boundaries, by the way. It's just rubbing of rock that can form earthquakes. And then finally, we have hotspots, which form the Hawaiian Islands. So you have part of the mantle that's really, really, really hot, and all that heat rises. And let's just say this plate is moving this way. And this move, or as the plate is moving, the hot spot stays stationary, by the way, but the plate is moving above it. And that melts a volcano into the overriding plate. So now you have this volcano. And as I'm going to label this volcano as volcano A. And as this plate is moving, it might move volcano A over here. And then the hotspot stays stationary, but now it's going to make a new volcano, volcano B. And then as the plate keeps moving, it might move volcano A over here, and here's volcano B, and it might make a new volcano, volcano C. So this is old, potentially not active, and this is young, potentially very active because it's right over the hotspot. The Hawaiian Islands are an example of a linear island chain that was formed from a hotspot, not any kind of interaction between plates. There is no subduction. As you can see from this Google Earth image, there is no subduction because I can definitely see a trench here. But there's no trench, so there's no subduction. So how these islands form? They form from a hot spot deep within the mantle. It rose and it's really, really, really hot. It started to melt the overriding plate, which, by the way, the plate's moving this way. So all the young islands are really close to the hot spot, and the plate just moved the islands further and further and further away. Like this island right here is anywhere between 3.8 to 5.6 million years old. That means 3.8 to 5.6 million years ago, that island was right over the hot spot, but it took 3.8 to 5.6 million years of moving to move it that way. All right, hope you understand. Thanks for listening.